Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's topic is how to apologize. I think it's a very important topic. Maxine, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Hi, everyone. I'm no stranger to the Bree Fuller Show. I am Maxine. Yes, I'm Maxine Latimer Trimble, and I'm a clinician and I am a pastor as well. And yes, I love to do what I'm doing because I love to empower individuals so that they can become stronger. And this is the reason why we are here. So, hey, sit back and relax and see how it benefits you.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And let's jump right into it. Why are apologies important? Why do they matter?
Wow, wow, wow. This is a huge and a big topic, Bree. And I have to share this. I had a group recently where I was talking to a group of young people, and the topic about apology came along. And, it was amazing to hear their response to apology. Why is it important? Some say, hey, I never apologize, right? And also another one says, I apologize by giving a gift or flower or something, and the other one says that, why am I apologizing because I didn't do anything wrong? And one says, I isolate. And the key thing is it is important to apologize, because when you apologize you're showing that you regret what you have done, something that you have done, and you sincerely involve your reflection and your action to take responsibility and for whatever, accountability and responsibility for what you have done. So it is
Yes,
important. It mends the relationship as well, right?
I
And it
agree.
gives healing, right? And restoration for what you are trying to do and what you are trying to put across to gain that apology from that individual. So
That
it's
I
necessary.
agree with you in all of those points. And for those who don't like to apologize, I would like to ask you, do you value the relationships that you're in? Do you value other individuals? Because there are some people, they take it to heart when they don't get that apology. I personally am at the point in my life where if you choose not to apologize to me, I
Mhm,
will just say to myself, okay, I know how you feel about me, and let me move on with my life. We're
mhm,
not enemies or anything like that, but
mhm.
now I know how to deal with you. But I think apologies are very important.
Yes, I agree 100%. But sometimes, Bree, you have to understand the apology is coming from a place where this person may say, I didn't do anything wrong. Why am
Yes.
I apologizing? I've heard that. How many times you have heard that? I didn't do anything wrong. What I did was not wrong. So why am I apologizing? And some that's where it becomes.
Maxine, not to cut you off, but I do think that if a person is telling me that I hurt them or they felt that I wronged them in some way, I don't have a problem with apologizing if I feel this is going to help them to feel better. I may not be apologizing from the standpoint that I did something wrong, but sometimes this person may feel like, you know what, I need my feelings validated. I will say I'm sorry in a case like that because I feel like this person needs the apology. So in a case like that, I think I have to put my pride aside if this is
Mhm,
a relationship that I value.
mhm. And then this is where the pride comes in
Yes.
to the apology, and it takes it into a different place, right? But I know you are going to get to that part. So, but
Right, right.
yeah, people apologize for many different reasons, right?
Yes.
And is it real? Is it genuine? Right? Because apology can be fake. I'm giving you
Well,
what you
that's
want.
going into
Come
my
on, come
next
on.
question. As my next question is, if an apology is made with excuses or blame, is it authentic? Some people would say, well, I wouldn't have done this if you didn't do that. I wouldn't have, it's your fault. I don't think that's a very sincere apology. What's your take on that?
My take on that, this is when you get to that place. I am sorry, but you know,
Yes.
but because you did that to me, that's the reason why, or if you didn't do that to me, right? Yeah, so that's where it's not genuine, right? When it's genuine is where you are really regret what you have done, and you take the responsibility and you commit yourself to change. That's
Yes.
when it's real. It's when you take responsibility for your wrongdoing, and you genuinely have this remorse
Yes.
and respect the person, that you are not going to shift the blame on the person. So sometimes you're apologizing, but you're shifting the blame in the middle or on the person. And you said, I'm sorry, but if you didn't call me that name or you didn't do that to me, then I would not have done that to you. So that's when it's not real. And that's when you shift the blame onto the other person. And that can cause the other person to get upset, shut
Yes.
down, or get angry with you. So you have to be really careful how, it's a complex situation,
It
how
is.
it's
It is.
complex, this apology situation. It's complex, and you have to be really mindful of the other person when you're doing it as well, because that other person can say, Bree, I don't want to hear any apology from you, you know so you have to make sure that you listen, because apology is, you have to listen to what the person is saying. You have to take responsibility. You have to listen to improve on what your next step, right? How you gonna
I,
validate the
I
person and
agree
to take your next
wholeheartedly
step.
on that. I agree wholeheartedly on that. I'd like
Yes.
to welcome Janice. Thank She said,
Yeah,
hello, Bree and
please.
Minister Maxine. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'd like to take this opportunity to give a shout out to the Florida sisters. I had a great time with you
Yeah.
ladies today. Fantastic group of ladies. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your group.
I saw you in your pink Lady B, breast cancer awareness. Come on now. Yeah, you look
It's a fun
beautiful.
group. Janice knows how to put things together. I will definitely say that. So, as we were saying, now let me ask you this, Maxine. If
Mhm,
there are two people, they're in a heated argument, and sometimes it's that tit for tat.
mhm,
You said something cruel to me, so now I'm going to show that I can one up you, very easily. Things are said that we cannot take back,
mhm,
hurt feelings.
mhm,
In a case like that, you know, because, one person may apologize, but they're expecting an apology from the other person who may still be hurting and not see where they're wrong.
mhm.
How can we make a situation like that right? Do you say to the person, well, I apologize to you and you didn't apologize to me? Or should you wait and see if this person will come and make things right?
So, Brie, it's you can wait and see how it's going to go, but I would say listen to what the person is saying. Listen to what the person is saying to you, and take responsibility for your action. What
Yes.
role did you play into the situation to cause that person to get upset? And this is where you take that responsibility. What contributes the problem, right?
Yes.
What was your role? Trying to take the person's perspective is and see the person's perspective is important. And how do you look at their side, right?
Yes.
Because they what's the action, what's your action? So all these you have to take in consideration. And if you have to wait, because sometimes you have to wait until the person is able, calm down, and is able to receive it, because sometimes you go for it and you apologize and it's more harm than good.
It's true because I do think sometimes when we're caught up in our emotions, we need to
Hmm.
take time to process,
Hmm.
process our thoughts, process our feelings, wait till we cool down before we engage in conversation because I think that there will not be any effective communication will not take place when
No.
you're still thinking about the words that were said,
Hmm.
how hurt you are. I just don't think it's a good time to hash it out.
Hmm. Oftentimes too, the other person will come to you first.
Yes.
Right. And, say, I was going off at you and I'm demanding this apology, but, my bad. And then because you waited, you can say, me too. I was going off at you too. And,
Yes.
and it's much, much more easier. And if the person never ever come to you, Bree, it's okay.
I agree.
And you feel like leave that person, because it takes a while. It takes a while to process
It's
based on
true.
emotions, past experience and emotions. It takes a while. And the person will get it together, but the key thing is that you have it in motion to take responsibility for what you have done. So when the person is ready, you are able to actually present your apology at that time. Yeah.
I agree, because I think you need to come from a place of where healing has started to take
Right.
place,
Mhm,
because you've processed it, you've prayed about it,
mhm.
you've had time to really analyze the situation and understand, you know, the role that you played. And
Right.
even if you were not in the wrong, you have to give because you know what? I think you need to give that person time to really decide on whether they're going to apologize or not,
Mhm.
because I can't speak for anyone else, but if an apology is not authentic, I don't want it. I'd
Right,
rather
right,
not
right,
receive that. If you're apologizing to me just to get in with me, just so that you can still use me or whatever it is, I don't need an apology. I mean,
right,
what do you
right,
think?
right. It says actions speak louder than words, right? So
Yes,
you may
yes,
not apologize, but your action, right, shows regret, right? And
yes.
then it speaks louder, right? That person can see, wow, I can see that this person really regret what he or she has done. So I'm going to give that person a chance, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm going
think
to
that
move
is
on.
I think that is so important. Good night, Andrew. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I would like to say, and tell me what you think about this, but when it comes to parents and their children, whether the
Mhm.
children are adults or not, there are
Yeah.
times when I think as parents, we may owe our children an apology, and I think
Oh,
we have to be very careful, because I think you can hurt your child's ego. It's like in the Bible, it tells you, it does say to fathers, do not provoke your children. And
mhm,
I think that scripture is there for a reason. A lot of
mhm.
damage is done in relationships, because sometimes I think parents do take it too far, and they refuse to apologize to their children. Well, I'm the parent, you're the child. But a
Right,
lot of
right.
damage takes place in these moments. I mean, what do you think?
B Bree, that is really deep that you are saying that. And oftentimes as parent, our parents, we do fall in that trap where I am the adult here and you are wrong and you should apologize, knowing that sometimes we are causing the problem, or we are the one that, demonstrating something else different to the child. And sometimes it's easier to say, you know what, I'm wrong. Just take responsibility and say, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. And it
Yeah,
happens to the best of us, Brie, because it
it's
had
true.
happened to me. And I said, I find myself being at a low place and really and truly should not have said that to you or mentioned that to you. And I'm going to work on myself, because sometimes you have to take that responsibility and accountability about working on yourself, because you go back and say the same thing again,
It's
right?
true.
Right. Yeah.
It's so true. I can tell you now that losing a child changed my perspective on a lot of things, because I look back on and that shoulda, woulda, coulda, things I could have done better. I question myself, how did my late child really feel about me? And I had to learn, what, because in the past, being stressed out, terrible marriage, I used to yell a lot. And I realize now that is not effective communication. And the
Right.
kids tune you out after a while. But it's
Yes.
like now I am learning to try my best to communicate with my children. I may not always get it right, but I want them to know or to see that mom is making an effort.
Right.
Mom is trying to validate my feelings as a young adult,
Right.
treating them with respect because they're not children anymore.
Right.
Respecting boundaries because
Right. Right.
I can't tell them what they can and can't do. I can give them advice. They may not even want it, but it's
Right.
like learning not to cross that boundary line.
Right. And you're right. What you mentioned about boundaries, right? Now, if you are not able to apologize to your child, you are telling your child that you are not respecting their boundaries, right?
Yes.
Right. And you too, your boundaries are not consistent, right? Because you are telling them to do something that is right, but yet still you are not doing something that is right. So
Yes.
they look at you like, "How are you telling me to apologize and you don't want to do it?" Right? So
Right.
you look at you fake. You
Yeah,
are
it's
fake.
true.
You're not
It's
genuine,
true.
right?
It's true.
Yeah.
I
Yes. So
think
they will come at you and tell you you
it's
are fake.
true. I
You
mean, it's
know.
true. I think we have to set the example for our children because I think that they do learn from us. So I think it's a very,
They
we
do.
have to be very mindful in these situations because, there are times when I can honestly, there have been times when my feelings have been very hurt and I did not receive an apology, but I am learning that, what? I have been in therapy. I have been doing the work on myself. So at the end of the day, am I going to let that throw me off, bring me back down to that dark place, put me back in depression, or simply move on with my life? I think that we have to meet people where they are. And if we
Yes.
have to force an apology, then something is wrong with us. Then we need some healing too, just
Right.
like the person who will not apologize. I mean, do you agree with that?
I agree with you, Bree. You know, Bree, what I love about you, you are going to talk about what you did and how you have grown from that situation. And I love that because many times you don't want to receive the apology, right? I mean, I don't want it, right? And I agree that it's okay not to receive the apology based on past experiences,
Yes.
based on your emotional state and your psychological state. And I really think that if you don't leave, I mean, it's okay. Maybe that person can get to a place where that person has some understanding of what that person is trying to do, and use that example to move on from there, right? Because that's what you did. You're using
I
that
totally,
example to move on from there as well,
yes.
right?
I agree with you. And Herbert, hello, Bertie. Thank you so much for tuning in. He said someone has to be the adult in those situations, and it should be the parent. Totally
Right.
agree with you
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
some form
As
of
the parent,
maturity.
we are the
Right.
leaders in the situation, and we should be setting the example. And I hope
Right.
that the parents who are listening to this, because you will be tested, that time is coming up. We all have ups and downs with our children, but I think it's a form of showing love and respect when
Right.
we do make that effort to apologize. I mean, what do you think on that about
Yes,
that?
yes, yes. It shows that you really at a state of remorse, right?
Yes.
And to where you show that respect, and it shows that maturity, that you regret what you have done, right? And you are going to the person, say, "Hey, look, I mean, I have done this, and I know that I have hurt your feelings, but please accept my apology."
Yes.
And
I mean,
we are, you
that's
know.
so true. And Herbert is saying, "Hey ladies, good topic." And I have to tell you, Bertie, Maxine reached out to me with this topic, and I'm so thankful because I think it's something that we need to talk about.
Mhm.
So, Maxine, let me ask you this. Do apologies bring healing? And how
Oh,
important is it?
oh my God. It brings healing to both ways. for the person who is apologizing and the person who is receiving it as well. Because remember, sometimes it's because the person understand and validate your feeling. All you're looking for is someone to respect you and
Yes,
validate your feelings, to know that you wrong and they understand where you are at, and they are willing to show that remorse and take responsibility and able to work on themselves to move on. That's a big deal now. It takes pride. It takes you to shift away the pride and humility to really, work yourself to go and say, I'm bad. I apologize. And Bree, I am big with saying I'm sorry,
yes,
than using the word I'm sorry. I may be wrong, but don't come to me and say you are sorry, right? Tell me, okay, what are you sorry about? So rephrase what you have done, like, I have called you out of your name, right? So
yes,
instead of saying I am sorry, say you come to me and said, Bree, you know what, I called you out of your name, right? That's disrespectful, right? I know I was disrespecting you, but I wanted to, make you feel some pain, right? But
yes.
I see how it hurts you, right? And it wasn't my intention of hurting you. So I'm sorry, and I hope that you can accept my apology, because I'm working on myself moving forward to make sure this does not happen again. That's much, much better than saying I'm sorry. So
And
sometimes we,
I'm so glad you said that, because I totally agree with you. Andrew has a point here. He says the longer we wait to apologize or forgive, the harder it becomes to apologize and forgive. And that is so true. And I'd like to ask you this, Maxine. I can tell you, like in my marriage, my
Mhm,
ex-husband was not big on apologizing. And
mhm,
it got to the point where I couldn't care less whether he apologized or not. And
mhm,
I got to the point where it's like, well, you know what? I don't even want to be married anymore. And
mhm,
I think there are some people out there, they wait until it's too late
mhm.
when they realize that they should have apologized. Sometimes I think there are people who believe, well, the marriage ended because of a simple reason, but it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. The
Mhm.
person, you just did one thing that they had enough. So when
Right.
you think you're punishing this person by not apologizing, what you're doing is punishing yourself.
Yourself.
And you're
Mhm.
showing this other person that I really don't value you as an individual.
Right.
I mean, what do you think about that?
So it fosters self-love,
Yes,
respect, and it
yes,
shows, it rebuilds your trust, right?
yes,
And it promotes forgiveness and reconciliation when you really don't wait, or you don't, stay longer to do it, right? And it clarifies history, whatever history you have, it brings it to the forefront, and it
yes,
helps you with, to establish a clear boundaries so that you can move on with your life. And me too, Bree. My previous marriage, I was bitter, and a lot of things I did, I didn't want to apologize. But once I started taking responsibility for my action and the role that I played in the situation, I was able to apologize to that
yes.
person. Did I apologize in person? No, because sometimes you cannot apologize in person
I
because the
agree.
person is no longer around, right?
Yes,
But you can write letter to the person, so
yes.
and to release yourself so that you are, you're able to move on. And that was how I was able to move on. And once you apologize, don't bring up back the same thing over and over and over and
Thank
over
you. Thank
again,
you. I
right?
think that is a very important point, because that was another thing. It's like in my marriage, it was like you keep bringing up things from 20 years ago. It's like you're looking for a reason to
Right, to
fight,
justify them.
right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like I think that's an excellent point. If you've hashed it out, let it go,
Let it
and
go.
and just move on.
Move on. Don't go back and relive the same situation over and go. Let it go. And
It's
many people
toxic.
don't know how to let things go.
True.
They don't know
True.
how to let, it's a process, and they don't listen. So this
It's
is
true.
important in apologizing. One of the steps that you have to listen, because if you don't listen to what the person is saying, because sometimes the person already let go, the other person, other
It's
party
true.
let go of the situation, but you reliving it, right? And it causes more harm than good. So if you know, if you listen to what the person is saying and not listening to yourself, sometimes we listen to ourselves and our emotions, right? And
Yes.
then you forget about the other person's and what the person is saying, and it the apology becomes harder, and that's when we struggle in apologizing too. So it's good to not to wait too long to apologize, right? However you can do it, go ahead and do it. But you have to be at a place to be ready to apologize as well. Because Brie, you were at a place where hey, I gotta let go of this
Yeah.
thing. I have to move on because it's holding me back. And
Yes.
you genuine apologize to the person. The person may not accept it, but hey, you release yourself, you
Yes.
move on, and you continue your life.
I totally agree with you on that. And I like what you said earlier about when you apologize, just saying you not to say, "Hey, I'm sorry," but to bring up what the offense was. So
Mhm.
I'd like you to go a little deeper into that to let the viewers know, like, "Hey, these are the steps to apologize." Giving them an idea of the proper way and to make it authentic, because I think that's just so important to know that it was a genuine apology.
So the key thing is you have to identify the action you are apologizing for, right? What are you apologizing for? And in most cases, sometimes we forget what we apologizing for. The word I'm sorry just comes out and it's the
Yeah,
easiest thing for you to say. But the person on the other party will say, he he totally forgets what he did or what she did. And that's what causes the problem. So if you say, I am sorry for what you have done. It was wrong for me to do, it was wrong for me to call you out of your name. It was wrong for me to hit you, right? Then you are stating what you did. So the
yes,
person said, yeah, okay, at least he knew what he did or what she did. And he's
yes,
really regrets what he or she did and has some remorse and taking responsibility for the action that was done. And that's what it's all about. I,
yes.
I am sorry is a language used all the time and in argument, and it's just used loosely, and it's disrespectful to
I,
not
I,
to
I I
say
totally, I totally
what's
agree.
wrong.
Bertie says, apologies must be real and heartfelt. And I
Right.
truly agree with you on that, because I think that's what leads to healing. I tell you and you let me know what you think about this, Maxine. If a person says, like you're saying, it's easy to say I'm sorry, but are you really? Because it may not
Right.
even be sincere. Because, for instance, if you apologize, you know what? I stayed out all night. I'm really sorry. But you do it again and
Mm.
again
Repeat
and
offense, right?
again, right? Then
Yeah.
eventually, to me, that's an unspoken language right there. You didn't
Right.
have to articulate to me that, you know what, that you couldn't care less about me. You showed me. And like
Right.
you said earlier, sometimes I do believe action speaks louder than words.
Mhm.
So I think that, sometimes we can't just say, well, this person apologized. So, you know what? I'll move on. If they keep doing it again and again and again, then they're
Mhm.
showing you that they don't value you.
Right. This person not taking any responsibility, or this person has no remorse, right? Or maybe too, that person may have some emotional situation going on. That's the reason why they're doing it over and over and over and over again. It's
Yes,
like it's, they don't know how to stop doing what they're
it's true.
doing. They don't know how to stop, Brie. And this is where you have to point out to the person, the other party, has to point out to the person what the person did, right? So that the person can take responsibility for his and her action. And sometimes too, the person may say, I didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
Right? That wasn't me. That was you. Why am I apologizing? Or, or the person may go back and do the same thing over and over again, as you mentioned, is because the person may not respect you as well or don't care
It's
about
it's
your
it's it's
feelings,
it's true. At
you
the
know?
end of the day, I think when, especially when children are in a home and they see this very thing displayed between both parents. One parent is doing this and that, never apologizing. Well, you're teaching your sons and your daughters to do the same thing.
Right,
I
right.
think we have to be very mindful that we are setting an example for your children, which leads to my next question. At what age should we teach our children to apologize? I think it's very important for children to learn this.
So, Bree, it varies because, being a parent, um it starts when they're younger, when like 2 3 and the baby, they may have done something and you may say, I'm sorry, because you know that you did something. So it started 2 and 3, where it's a gradual process of understanding the child, what the child is doing, and the consequences that goes along with it as well. So that's how, it foster the apology, and the remorse and the respect. So when the child gets up to 3 and 5, then the child start understanding, hey, I'm doing something wrong, I should stop. And then that child have more understand, a little bit more understanding of remorse, genuine remorse, right?
Yes.
And then you foster it with love as you go along too, because it can kind of foster different kind of situation in the child with the apology. Because every time the child may do something wrong, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So it becomes a learned behavior, right? Because you foster that kind of situation to the child, so the child fostering it back to you, right? Or giving it back to you. So that's when you have to be careful how you model around what you are modeling around the child. So that's how the child learned from your behavior how to say apology. When the child reaches 6 to 7, that's when the child have more understanding of what he or she is
Yes.
doing, right? And more where the respect, you teach a child how to respect certain things based on what they're doing, what they're saying, and you start setting boundaries as well. So it helps to foster that apology to make it more sincere.
Right. And I think we're teaching them to, to respect the feelings of others,
Right,
because you can hurt another person's feelings.
right.
And I think children need to understand that, what, if I've hurt my friend's feelings, then I should apologize, because I think it starts from a young age.
Right. And this is where, Bree, you have to let them know what they did. Because if
Yes.
they don't know what they did, they just going to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What you did? Nothing,
Right. No,
So,
it's true. It's
nothing,
it's it's
and
true.
then they say, you did it. So you have to let them know, you throw the toy at me, and I'm letting you know it's hurt. It hurts, right? You have to let
Yes.
them know how it causes you pain and you don't like it. And that's when they know that they have done something. And then that's when they know that they have done something wrong and they regret what they have done. And that's the apology. And that's meaningful.
Right. I love how you put that. I'd like to welcome Samuel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd like to talk about public apologies, and there are two examples. I love the video that you sent to me of
Yeah.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness making an apology to another world leader. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he called him a dictator. And I felt that that apology was heartfelt. I felt he showed humility, and I think that is very important. And then I will go into the other extreme of public apologies. And that is, I've seen videos of pregnant young women being made to stand before the church to apologize for being pregnant. I think that is wrong on so many levels.
Mhm.
Publicly shaming an individual, I don't think that is right. But in the case of like what Andrew Holness did, he called someone out publicly. He apologized publicly. I mean, what's your take on both extremes?
So this is complex, right? Right, the complex situation, public apology, the effectiveness, it depends on how it's perceived and the sincerity about the apology. So what Prime Minister Andrew Holness did was to state what he did, right?
Yes.
Right. He could have come out and said, I apologize, right? I apologize and I won't do it again. But he state what he did. He even state the
Yes.
time that he did it, right? And he said, listen, hey, it wasn't right. And I take fully responsibility for my action. And moving forward, I am going to work on, doing doing things the right way. And that was big. However,
Yes.
is the other party understand the concept of the apology, right? It based on the other party as well. But the key thing, what Prime Minister Andrew Holness did was to take responsibility and humility, because I know it was hard for him to come out
That was
and publicly
a lot of
display
humility.
a
And
lot of humility
I think that, you know, we we have to learn to put party affiliations
aside.
aside in certain matters. And I would say, look, the man made a public
Right.
apology. I feel that he was representing his country as a leader in setting an example.
Rebuilding
And you know
trust, because
what?
he had to rebuild back that
Yes,
trust that was
exactly.
broken. It was something
Exactly, and
broken and
called
it had to
himself out.
rebuild, right?
He called himself out. Samuel says, according to Freud, our behavior is subconscious, a lot of it.
Right.
You know, and I do believe that, but I think at some point we have to take accountability for our actions, because like I've heard people say, like, alcohol is a truth serum.
Yeah.
It's like people, when they drink, then the truth
The
comes out. But at the end of the day, am I going to say, well, you know what, I'll give him a pass because he was drinking? I think at the end of the day, we show how we really
really
feel in
feel
our
what, right, what you
behavior.
wanted to
That's not
say,
just my
right? Yes.
that's my belief.
Yes. And I think what Prime Minister did was trying to reconcile that relationship that was there and show the commitment to change, the
Yes,
commitment to change, right? Which is the starting point of the apology. And that's the
yes,
key. And it follows by a meaningful action. Now, the part where leaders bring their, young people, I think that's cultural thing that's supposed to be left and put aside
how
long time
damaging.
again, damaging the individual, that
Talk
they
about how
have to come
damaging that
out and
is.
apologize. That's wrong and wrong. Yeah.
Yes,
I don't know if I can say that. That's wrongdoing and wrongdoing. Publicly
yes,
disgracing someone else. So to tell them to come out and apologize, and it could be done in a different format, in a different way, where it's more meaningful and respectful. It's like, I'm not respecting you, I'm putting you out there to show you up that you have done something wrong. And
right.
that's wrong.
I don't think that's godly
Nope.
at all. I think it's wrong on so many levels. And you know, when we are embarrassing people, we're shaming them, we're setting that person up,
To fail.
for failure in
Mhm.
life. I think, when I was pregnant with my first child, I was not married.
Mhm.
And I remember back then there was still shame in that.
Mhm.
And I remember the couple that I chose to be godparents.
Mhm.
They stopped by to see me, and I had not seen them in a while.
Mhm.
And I will never forget. My friend's husband said, the whole time we've been talking to you, you've been hanging your head down.
Mhm.
And he said, I can tell that you feel ashamed because you're pregnant and you're not married. But he said, I'm telling you, you need to get over that because you will pass that shame on to your
Right.
baby.
Wow.
And
Really? Oh,
I
yeah.
will
Yeah.
I will forever thank him for saying that to me, because it helped me to see that, you know what, this is how I, because I did feel that way, because at the time I felt I let my parents down, I felt I let myself down.
Hmm.
But it's like it was just one of those things that happened. But that's where I think we have to learn to forgive
Right.
ourselves, but we have to learn to extend grace and understanding to others who
Yes.
find themselves in bad situations. Don't make it worse,
Right.
don't condemn them and shame them,
Right.
try to help. I mean, what's your take on that?
Sometimes I think people that when they're in power, right, they
Yes,
want to still have the control. And
yes,
sometimes what they do is to, they like to know that they're in charge. So they put you down, right, to feel good about themselves because they have the control. And this is
yes,
what some of those leaders they may do. They have the control and they have the power. And because I have the control and I have the power, I am going to publicly um, shame you by you publicly saying that you are sorry. And it's not right. And I totally denounce that behavior. And I pray that whoever or if someone is listening right now and they have to go through that, I pray that God will show you a way how to talk to that person, or how to deal with yourself after this is done. Because the shame and the
yes.
guilt that when when you openly shame someone, it's hard for you to put away that shame and that
It's
disgrace.
true. It's true. Some people carry that throughout their
Right.
entire lives and they pass it on to their children. So, thank you for what you said about that. Now, let's talk about pride and humility.
Yes.
I think Andrew Holness displayed humility in his apology.
Right.
And I think sincere apologies, there should be humility. And I think that apologies that are made with pride, they're not going to be sincere.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes they prevent people from making the apology.
Hmm.
And I think that's a dangerous place to be when you're so caught up in pride that you don't feel that you should apologize. So I'd like you to address both pride and humility.
So so humility is when you are sincere, right, and you have taken responsibility for your action, and you know you have caused wrong, right, and you want to change this, you want to reconcile, right, you want to make sure you bridge the gap, right, and you protect your what's that word, you protect your integrity. Yes, that's
Yes,
your word, right. And so you are going to you know apologize. Pride is when you have that major obstacle in you, you know and you don't want to do it because you think you're bigger, you're better than apologizing, and you are
yes,
right, and you are always right because you have that power and you have that right to say that you are not sorry. And it causes a problem to admit that you are at fault, or it causes a problem to admit that you are part of the problem or you have caused a
yes.
problem. And taking responsibility is really hard, and it can be harder for you to repair what you have done. And sometimes your
It's true.
ego is what
Yes,
causes that humility. Some people have a very
yes.
big ego, and it
It's true.
causes
It's
that
true.
you don't want to apologize, right? And pride makes it difficult for you to apologize. If you have that big ego, I'm not going to apologize. I'm the pastor. I'm the
Right. And doesn't it
shepherd of
say
this flock,
doesn't it
you
say in
know.
the Bible that pride cometh before
For
a
right,
fall?
right.
I think we have to be very mindful when we get into that space of pride. I think that, that's when we know we have to do a
I
self-evaluation
want to share something
because,
with you, Bree.
sure,
It can be that it shows a sign of weakness.
yes,
Right. Some people don't want to apologize because it's said that if I apologize, it makes me weak. If I apologize, it I am taking all the blame, you know. So it shows that the humility comes with your ego, and the myth of saying that I apologize, I'm weak, especially men, right? They were taught not to
I think
apologize.
it shows strength. I think it shows strength when you can acknowledge your faults and try to grow from it and extend a heartfelt apology. I definitely think that's strength. And I think when we don't apologize, I definitely see that as a sign of weakness.
True, but remember, some learned the behavior, right? Where
True.
some myth states that if I apologize, it's a form of weakness, right?
Yeah,
You know,
no,
you're a
I get
gallus.
it.
Let's put it
I
that way.
could
You're a
clearly see it.
gallus, man.
I've I've
And
seen it, and
you
yeah,
lose your strength, right? So you lose your power. Cause but that's not it. It's apologizing. Brings strength, and it demonstrates maturity and security in
yes,
yourself to admit that
yes.
you have done something wrong.
I love how you put that. And I think it leads you on the road to growth,
Right,
personal growth.
right, right.
I think that is so important. I'd like to welcome Mikey. Thank you
Hey,
so much
Mikey.
for tuning in, Mikey. Now let's talk about accepting an apology.
Mm.
Should apologies be accepted graciously?
Ah, so apology. Sometimes someone may not want to accept your apology for various reasons, right? It may be you have been apologizing over repeated offense, right? And this person is deeply hurt, and you
Yes,
have to give the person a chance and a time to really process their feelings and their emotion so that they can accept your apology, right? So if
I
someone
agree.
don't want to accept their apology, it's okay. All you know that you have tried to apologize or you have apologized, but you have to give that person the space. You have to set boundaries, right? So that you don't overdo it and cause more harm than good to the person or what you're trying to do. Because the other party as well, it takes some time for them to receive what you have done, because you have caused some sort of pain on that individual, right? So it won't go away easily, so they have to take time to process it, and it may be past hurt and experiences may cause you not to accept it immediately.
Excellent
Right,
point.
so that person has to give them that person a chance to settle the dust, and then you can actually work through it.
Now, if I want the apologizer to grovel and beg for forgiveness, pretty much, what does that say about me? I think now that I've been in therapy for a while, I'm in a different mind space,
Hmm.
but I think that there are cases where a person may be sincere, the other person knows that they're sincere, but it's like the need to punish, you know should that person be questioning themselves? Like, I think healing needs to take place on both parts,
Yeah.
because I think if a person swallowed their pride to come, if I came to you, Maxine, I'm so sorry for what I said to you, but you're rubbing it in my face and you keep reminding me of the offense, then it's like, how can we get past it?
Hmm.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So how do we handle a situation like that?
That's a difficult situation. That's where it's some
Yeah.
complex on the thing going, because if you have to grovel and beg for the apology, it means that you have some underlined in
or for
emotion or
forgiveness, because
forgiveness.
if I'm
Forgiveness.
coming to the person, I'm sincere in that apology, but they want to punish me, you know. I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think if you're not ready to receive the apology, I think we should be able to articulate it to the individual. You know what, I'm not in the mind
Right,
space for
right,
this
right, right, right,
conversation right
right,
now.
right,
Do you mind if we have this
right,
conversation
right,
at a later date?
right,
Because I don't want to be rude or
right, right,
disrespectful to
right,
you,
right,
but I just don't feel as if I can receive it.
right,
I mean, I think honesty
right.
goes a long way.
That's
What's your
good.
take on that?
That's good. And you're entitled to let that person know, hey, I'm not at that place yet. So give me some time to get to that place. And this is where you are showing the person how you feel, right? So
Yes,
you are setting your boundaries right there. You're setting boundaries, letting the person know where you feel. So give me some space for me to deal with that situation. And that's important because that person may wait or may leave it alone, right? For that forgiveness, right? Or when the time comes, when it's ready, or maybe you never do it,
yes,
but you can move
it's true.
on from where you are at. So that's good that you mentioned that, Bree. Yes.
Thank you. What would you like to, why does it hurt not to receive an apology? You know, we spoke about it earlier, but there are some people who they they just can't move on in life because an individual did not apologize to them. Yeah, maybe that individual hurt them a great deal,
Mhm.
but they feel this strong need for an apology from this individual. Why does it hurt so much when we don't receive that apology?
Because
For some people,
that person don't respect you, feel like that person don't respect you and not validating your feelings, right? Yeah. The person not taking responsibility for what they did to you. So it's painful, it's hurt, right? Because the person, hey, they don't respect me enough to apologize, to come to me and say that I am sorry. I am nobody to them, or they see me as nothing. So it's painful when a person don't come up to you or don't say something to you to take responsibility for their action, because it's a form of disrespect, and you feel like the
yes.
person disrespect and it's a big deal for many people. For many people, they move
It is
past
a
it.
big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal. You know what I would like to say to those individuals is, please do not suffer in life because of this person not apologizing to you. You know, see a therapist, talk to your pastor, talk to a friend, but find a way to work through that
Mhm,
hurt,
mhm.
because I don't think anyone on earth is worth all of that
True.
to hold
True.
you back
Yeah.
emotionally. And I have been there. I remember, you know, because I question my worth and my value,
Mhm.
you know, because it's like I wasn't even worthy of an apology. But at the end of the day, why do we feel it that it's so important to be validated by others? I think that's where a lot of us get into trouble emotionally.
That's so
You
true.
know, I think we have to really, you know, self-esteem, self-love, these are very important things, and I think a lot of us learn this later in life. But I think we need to do these self-evaluations and work on ourselves, because if we are holding on to something that happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago,
Mhm.
and we can't move on, something is very wrong.
Right. And sometimes too, the person don't see the wrongdoing, see what they have done is wrong, and that's a big thing. And
Yes,
that's why it's important to set boundaries, because that person
yes,
may be doing the same thing over and over and you didn't say anything to the person. So the person may, hey, I'm not apologizing because it didn't hurt you before, but now you saying that you need me to apologize. So sometimes too, the communication is important, to make sure
yes,
that each person understand what is happening so they can take responsibility for their action. And sometimes they can't. It's not a fact that they cannot apologize, is a fact that they have a fragile ego,
yes,
right? And admitting that they're at fault, is an extreme, and it affects their self-worth as well. Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I am a firm believer, Maxine, that not everyone belongs in your life.
True.
Not everyone needs to be in your circle or be a part of your life.
Yeah.
The people who are negative,
Hmm.
people who I know in my heart they don't value me as an individual, we don't have to be enemies. I can wave to you when I see you. I can say hello.
Hmm.
If you need my help and I'm able to do so, I don't have a problem with it.
Hmm.
But I understand that that boundary line you will not cross,
Right.
because I'm not giving another individual that power over me. And this is only from years of work.
Hmm.
But it's like when you show me that you don't value me, and it's like you want me not to value myself, because like they don't feel good about themselves, they don't feel that you should feel good about yourself. And I think it's the part
True.
of us taking our power back. I mean, at the end of the day, an apology is big and it's healing. But for those who their apologies are not sincere, or those
Hmm.
apologies will stay stuck in that individual's throat and never come
Hmm.
out,
And never
know,
come out, right?
I feel,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I feel these are people that are toxic, and we don't need individuals like that in our life. We have to learn. I was very codependent in the past, and
Right.
I tell you, I struggled, and it took a very long time to come out of that. But I
Hmm.
think we all need to see how valuable we are and worthy of being treated well and with respect. I mean, what would you say to the viewers as far as that is concerned?
Well, it depends on the individual. Where are
Yes.
you? The maturity level of the individual, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't see to respect someone, you are not going to respect that individual. And it doesn't matter how hard the other person tries for you to apologize, you are not going to do it. But
Yes.
you can work on yourself, right? And this is where it takes you to own up on what you have done. And once you start working on yourself, you take responsibility, right?
Yes.
You validate. First of all, you have to validate what you have done, your feelings, and then you validate the other person's feelings. Because if
Yes.
you don't, sometimes if you don't validate your feeling, then you are not going to apologize,
It's true.
Bree, right? And then you
True.
are able to validate the next person's feeling, and show some form of remorse. And that
Yes.
is big, and that shows how much you have grown, and it shows
Right.
how much you respect the other person to make an effort to do, to make a change, and to
Yes.
say something that the other person may respect you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that. And I just think it's big, to get to that point where, you know, because I think it's easy to become bitter and toxic towards another individual.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
once you've done that self evaluation, and you know what, this person is just not where I'm trying to be emotionally, but I'm not going to let that person pull me down. And
Right.
you know
Right.
what? It's just time for me to move on. I
Hmm.
think that is a very freeing thing. And I think that I think, seeing a therapist was, and I've said it on this podcast so many times, it was a life changing thing for me, because it changed my perspective on so many things. I took the
Hmm.
time to read the books that really, really helped me to
Right.
see myself in a whole new light. Because
Hmm.
honestly, when I went through my divorce, I didn't think very much of myself. But I think, what's that scripture? We fight not against flesh and
Flesh and
blood,
blood, with
flesh and
principalities
blood,
and powers
and
of darkness and
yeah.
wicked, and
I
yeah.
think, I think when
Yeah.
we get in that negative mindset,
Hmm.
when we are depressed, when we have low self-esteem, look, I think that's where Satan loves us,
Right.
because it's like it's easy to pull us away. It's
Hmm.
easy to keep us stuck in that negative place.
Hmm.
I think when we learn to love ourselves and learn to build up our self esteem, it's a game changer.
It is a game changer. and you see where you are at and how you can literally process your emotion, make those
Yes.
changes, take responsibility for your action. Because sometimes you know that you know, the repeated offense, right? Do you know that when you are repeating the offense, you can say, oh my God, here am I doing it again. I'm trying not to do the same thing over and over again, but I'm working on myself. So you have taken the responsibility for where you are at, and have
Yes.
shown the person that you are working on yourself. So it's up to the other party to understand where you are at and pardon you. And that's when it takes apologizing and forgiving, right?
Yes.
One
Forgiveness is
you
huge.
one you regret when you apologize, you regret what you have done, right? And when you forgive the person, it's like, okay, I know that you have been doing this over and over and over and over again, but I forgive you. I throw it into the sea of forgetfulness, and I won't bring it up again. I won't hold you ransom. So it's important for to move through those process, but you have to move through the process of admitting that you have done something, you know, and take the action to make sure you change it, right? Or it does not happen again. And then you can ask for forgiveness. And then
Yes.
it's easier for you to accept the forgiveness, and it's easier for the other person to forgive you as well. So it's a process. It's a process.
Definitely, definitely a process. And I think for those who have had people walk away, they don't want to deal with them anymore. I think it prepares them for the next situation.
Right.
Hopefully, they can learn, you know what, this person doesn't want anything to do with me. So, the next person I have in my life, I have to be
Mhm.
honest. I have to learn how to treat people with respect and not
Right.
bring them down. I think that is just so important to learn the lessons from
Right.
these situations.
Right. And you know, there are individuals, I'm hearing in my spirit that their individual will never, ever, 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 ever accept that person's apology
Yeah.
because of the deep hurt and pain.
Yes.
However, as you mentioned, you have to seek help to deal with that underlying hurt and pain, and then you process it. And when you start processing that emotion, you can see the process of understanding why that person is trying to apologize, why that person is apologizing, and why you can accept it based on where you are at. So it's a deep thing. And you know, I am not saying that you should accept that person's apology, but once you start working on yourself, Bree, as you had work on yourself, Bree, you have come to a place of maturity and understanding, so you can accept the
Yeah,
apology.
and let me tell you, forgiveness, what I came to learn is when we do not forgive others, we're not punishing them, we're punishing
No.
ourselves.
Right. Right.
Forgiveness is truly us, and I think it helps us to release the individual and release them in love. We don't have
Right.
to hate people, but I do think that forgiveness is huge. I mean,
Right.
I think when we choose not to forgive, I think it's a cruel thing, and sometimes it's not from a place of hatred, but I think
No.
for some people it's self-preservation, because they think, especially when people are
Mhm.
dying, and
Right.
it's like, I do believe, release that person in love.
Right.
But for some people it's hard. They feel that if I give that apology, then I'm being pulled back into that hole. But I really believe in the power of forgiveness. That's something I had to learn when I found out my father was dying. I had a
Yes.
lot of anger towards him. I really did.
Wow.
But my last words to my father was, I love you. And I'm
Right.
thankful because I did love him. And
Yes.
I'm thankful that I did get to say that to him. But there were a lot of unanswered things, a lot of hurt from the past. But I
Right.
had to tell myself, if I don't let go of these things, I might as well jump in his grave with him, because I
Ah,
won't be living
wow.
life.
That's deep now,
I
Bree.
won't be living
That's
life.
deep.
but
that's yeah.
it was a lot. And trust me, it was a lot. And it's, there are painful memories, but I
Mhm.
think it's a choice at the end of the day. And it may be easier for some than others to make that choice that, you know what, I'm going to let go of this toxic situation or try to let go of these toxic memories. Because
Mhm.
if we are to grow and if we're to set an example for children, grandchildren,
Mhm.
and to
Yeah.
encourage others, because how can I have a podcast where I'm encouraging people to heal and I'm not taking the steps myself? I think
Right.
that would make me a hypocrite. So I am just big on trying to learn from all of my mistakes, and I'm
Right.
not perfect because this
We
is a
are
process.
we none of us are perfect.
It's a
Yes,
it's a
not. Oh
it's
gracious,
it's definitely a process. But
right.
before we close, I'd like you to address writing a letter or
Oh,
sending a card, especially if a person is deceased and you can't have this conversation. I remember my therapist having me write letters that I didn't mail out. I wrote them
mhm,
and then I tore them up. But I
right,
did get things off my chest and it did bring some healing. So let's
right.
talk about the importance of writing that letter or sending a card.
You see, some people may not be at the place or may not ready for a verbal apology, but
Yes.
writing that letter is like it stands out because the person said, wow, the action, man, this person took that time out to write that letter. I will accept it because they went through all that trouble to really do that. It means that this person is at remorse, that, I am readily accepting this apology. And even if the person is not around, like you mentioned, your father who passed away, it gives you that peace, and it makes you release your pain,
Yes.
knowing that he is not around, but you sit there and you write that from out of your heart, releasing that pain in your heart. It's powerful, and it heals that deeper and inner soul that needs to be healed. And that's important.
Yes.
That's important because sometimes it's, I saw something recently where this individual always apologizing, but this time he didn't apologize. He went and he bought flowers, and when the person saw the flowers, she was like, wow, 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 you are not saying it, you are showing it to me.
Yes.
And this is much more powerful than when you actually say you're sorry. So some
Yes.
people receive a written note or something that is meaningful because you took the time out to sit down, process your feeling. So the process in doing that, your healing has started, right?
Yes.
And by the time you finish and take it to the person, you have been at a place of maturity where you are, it's easy for you to give it and say it and accept it. So
Yes.
that's powerful and that's deep. So whatever way you an individual choose to apologize, whether it's verbal or through written, think
Yes.
about what you are going to do before you do it.
Yes. I
Understand the
totally
person
agree.
that you're actually the party, right? Where that party is. As your dad passed away, you cannot verbally talk with your dad. So that apology, you may not receive that apology, but to you, you know that you have done it and you have released yourself. You have released that pain, and it gives
Yes.
you that power. You have gotten back your power, right? For the
Yes.
other person, your power comes in the action of how it's done, and
Yes.
that is meaningful.
I think it's very important, and I've shared on the podcast before, a couple of weeks before my son passed away, and I
Mhm.
was very angry with him and with my daughter, and
Yeah.
I had a conversation with both of them, and that was really a good conversation. And I tell you, my son hugged me. I will never
Right.
forget that after that conversation, he hugged me. And that was
Right.
the last time he hugged me. He passed away 2 weeks later. But
Right.
I am thankful that we got to clear the air. You
Right.
know,
And
it's
before we
so
end,
important.
Bree, do you know the apology is not for the other party, it's for yourself too?
It's true.
Right.
It
It
releases you.
releases, it gives you
It
that peace
It
so you can
does.
grow.
It does.
Right.
If I hadn't had that conversation with him, there's a lot that I would be carrying to this
Right.
day,
Yeah.
but I think us having that conversation, because there were a lot of misunderstandings, and I took the time to explain how I was feeling. He
Right.
took the time to explain how he was feeling, and
Right.
we both received what the other had to say. And I
Yes.
do believe it was a very healing conversation. I think we have to learn not to hold grudges.
Right.
And it's just very important to listen to each other and
Right.
to to see where the other person is coming from. Maxine, I can't thank you enough for this conversation. Janice said, thanks, ladies. Wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Janice. We do appreciate you. But thank you so much, Maxine, for reaching out with this topic. I think it was a great choice. And I do appreciate you coming on. You always, you've helped me to grow so much. You are
I'm
such a
growing too, Brie.
yes.
I'm growing too.
No, I tell
It's
you,
both of us, right?
yeah.
Right? It's a two-way stream, right? Yes.
God has blessed me, and I thank Janice for introducing me to you. And, like I said, I've enjoyed every topic that you have done, and I can't wait to have you back. And, I would just like to say to the viewers that, please take the time to process every situation. Let's learn not to hold on to grudges. What are your closing thoughts, Maxine? What would you like to share with the viewers?
I just want to say that whether you apologize or not, you take responsibility for your action, right? Work on
Yes.
yourself. It may not be immediately, but take the time out to see what you have done and how you have done it. And if you want to verbally apologize, go ahead and do it when the time is right, the right time, the right place. And if you want to do a written apology, maybe your loved one is not around, or maybe you don't feel like you want to do it in that format, find a way to do it. And if you never ever apologize, it's okay. It's okay where you are at, but take the time out to acknowledge what is happening to you and the reason why you're not doing it. Maybe there are some underlying hurt and pain. Seek some help or read, figure out how you can help yourself. And if it's because of your ego and your power, find a way out to humble yourself, right?
Yes.
Because, find a way out you can submit and not people always submitting to you. Take responsibility for your action, right? Validate the other person's feeling. Express some remorse, right? Explain, don't excuse. Don't say you're sorry. Don't say but or if. That's poor excuses for excuses, right? Discuss changes, right?
Yes.
Discuss how you can change. Listen to improve. Be patient. Sometimes it don't happen immediately. And real apology requires you freely admitting that you're at fault.
Yes.
Freely, you're not forced. You fully accepting the responsibility, and you humbly asking for forgiveness. And immediately you will see the changes in your behavior and the other person's behavior, and you, both of you, actively rebuilding yourself. Thank you so much,
Well
Bree.
said. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much, Maxine. Looking forward to having you back soon. And Mikey
Looking
says,
forward to
thank
having
you,
you.
ladies. Mikey, thank you once again for tuning in. We do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone. And I'm wishing
Take
you a
care.
blessed week.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you.